Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 12 2021 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, it was a good bounce back week from the week before, and I am very happy with my results. Definitely because they were improvements from the week before. My 1-13, my immortal now 1-13 against the spread record, hopefully will never be reached again. Unfortunately, I did not get to 500 or better against the spread, but I will take a 7-8 week. We do have a 7-8 week, so I will take that against the spread. And straight up, after going 6-7-1 under 500 and just pure picking this week straight up, I went 9-6. That equals out to 46.7 and 60% respectively against the spread and straight up. So I will take that. That is definitely a decent improvement from last week, or a significant improvement against the spread at least. And straight up, I will take another winning week. And now overall for the year against the spread through 175 games, I am 69, 93, and 3 against the spread, and straight up in those same 165 games. 165 games. Let me say that statement again. In the past 165 games over the past 11 weeks, I am against the spread 69, 93, and 3 against the spread, and straight up I am 101, 63, and 1. Those percentages equal out to 42.7% against the spread, and straight up I am at 61.5%. So moved up a little bit incrementally, straight up. I will take that. But definitely the 50% long gone. I'm going to try to shoot for 45, 46 by the end of the year. I still have 6 weeks to go in the regular season, and I have all the postseason. And at 63, 64%, I still think is very doable with the amount of games left. So at least I'm doing okay there. I also want to say to all my American viewers out there, I know for guys like Gio Knows and Bridgewater's Finest, two great NFL YouTube prognosticators, shout out to them. They've already celebrated their Canadian Thanksgiving. I want to wish all my American viewers out there a very nice, happy Thanksgiving and Black Friday holiday weekend. I hope everybody enjoys their time with their family, their friends, their loved ones, people they care about. Anybody that has to work over the holiday, I hope it's a very short shift that you can get, to your own holiday festivities, and enjoy the three F's that I always love to associate with Thanksgiving around this time of year, especially for us, which is family, food, and football. So everybody out there, have a great Thanksgiving holiday and weekend celebration, and hopefully we can get with these good football game or these kind of mediocre football games on the Thanksgiving schedule. And the buys for this week are the Arizona Cardinals and the Kansas City Chiefs. So that is a huge bye week for a lot of people. Because a lot of people have Kyler Murray, James Conner, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Ronaldo Moore, Cardinals defense, Matt Prater, who had a bad kicking day on Sunday when he missed a couple field goals. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, Tyreek, Elaire, Kelsey, Harrison Butker, who I have on my team, I have to bench and get another kicker. So if you have any of those players on those two big, very good teams, bench them because they will not be playing this week. We have only 2 more weeks of the bye season, weeks 13 and 14. 8 more teams will go on a bye, and then we will have the final 4 weeks with 64 great games. So, all right, so time for my picks for this week. So on Thanksgiving Thursday, when the 3-7 Chicago Bears travel to Detroit to take on the 0-9-1 Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Chicago Bears here, minus 3.5, and Chicago Bears straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-5 Las Vegas Raiders travel to Dallas to take on the 7-3 Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys are 7-point favorites in this game. Give me the Dallas Cowboys here to win straight up, but I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders plus 7. Then the next game, when the 6-4 Buffalo Bills travel to New Orleans to take on the 500-5 New Orleans Saints, the Buffalo Bills are 4.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Buffalo Bills here minus 4.5, and the Buffalo Bills straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-4-1 Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cincinnati to take on the 6-4 Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 3.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Cincinnati Bengals here minus 3.5, and the Cincinnati Bengals straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Indianapolis to take on the 6-5 Indianapolis Colts. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are -2.5, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-5 Carolina Panthers travel to Miami to take on the 4-7 Miami Dolphins. The Carolina Panthers are 1-point favorites in this game. Give me the Carolina Panthers here -1, and the Carolina Panthers straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-3 Tennessee Titans travel to New England to take on the 7-4 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 5.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the New England Patriots here -5.5, and the New England Patriots straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-6 Philadelphia Eagles travel to New York to take on the 3-7 New York Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles here -3, and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-6 Atlanta Falcons travel to Jacksonville to take on the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Atlanta Falcons are 1-point favorites in this game. Give me the Atlanta Falcons here -1, and the Atlanta Falcons straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-7 New York Jets, the Jets have 3 wins. They have, when the 2-8 New York Jets travel to Houston, take on the 2-8 Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 3-point favorites in this game. Talk about an awful football game. I know I'm kind of just talk about an awful football game to pick. This is one of those games on the state market or on the state maps where you have all the regional markets. The only markets that get this game are the ones that essentially are in the New York Jet area, which is central New Jersey, and in Houston, Texas. Everywhere else, someone's going to put on a different game because nobody else really cares about this game. No offense to both those fan bases and their teams, but the Houston Texans are 3-point favorites in this game. Give me the Houston Texans here -3, and the Houston Texans straight up. And then the next game, when the 6-4 Los Angeles Chargers travel to Denver to take on the 5-5 Denver Broncos. The Los Angeles Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers here -2.5, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-3 Los Angeles Rams travel to Green Bay to take on the 8-3 Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are 1-point favorites in this game. Give me the Green Bay Packers here -1, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-5 Minnesota Vikings travel to San Francisco, take on the 5-5 San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 3-point favorites in this game. In probably my biggest upset, pure upset of the week, I am taking the Minnesota Vikings here +3, and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. Then the next game, on Sunday Night Football, when the 6-5 Cleveland Browns travel to Baltimore to take on the 7-3 Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are 4-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens here -4, and the Baltimore Ravens straight up. And then finally, in the Monday night game, when the 3-7 Seattle Seahawks travel to Washington to take on the 4-6 Washington Football Team. The Washington Football Team is a 1-point favorite in this game. Give me the Washington Football Team here -1, and the Washington Football Team straight up. All right, it's time for my thoughts on each game. The Bears at the Lions. This is a game to where, for the Bears, they put up a good fight, but of course, throughout the game, Cairo Santos missed a 40-yard field goal, which ended up being the difference in the game, since they lost 16-13. But they played Tyler Huntley, who they did a pretty good job on. They got 5 sacks on him. The Ravens really could not run the football that well. Deshaun Gibson had a great interception off Mark Andrews' back that gave a huge momentum swing to the Bears. And Andy Dalton, obviously, after Justin Fields left with a rib injury, and it's looking like that Andy Dalton is going to start on Thanksgiving against the Lions due to Fields' rib injury. Not very surprising due to the very short turnaround with Thanksgiving. And the Bears, they didn't have Akeem Hicks. They didn't have Khalil Mack's out for the year with a foot injury. Eddie Jackson still dealing with an injury himself. They didn't have Damian Harris. Allen Robinson was out for hamstring. So this Bears team is very beat up. And it's just kind of moseying along. Kudos to Marquise Goodwin, the 2012 London Olympian, for catching the potential game-ending touchdown. But it was due to the Huntley drive and the pass interference call that got the Ravens to win. But this Bears team is not very good. I think Matt Nagy's on his way out. And I think for the Bears, it's going to be a very kind of selling mood. I think Khalil Mack, I think Akeem Hicks, I think a lot of those veteran defensive guys are going to be tradable assets because I feel like you can get younger and strip down most of the key assets. Allen Robinson, I do not believe will be back. You need to get rid of some of their tight ends or not bring Jimmy Graham back. The offensive line needs a lot of rebuilding. Jason Peters needs to retire. And this Bears team has a lot of work to do. But they're playing the Detroit Lions, who, they lost Jared Goff, obviously, throughout the week. He couldn't practice, and he probably won't be able to, he might be able to go. There's an oblique injury in pregame. He played through it against the Steelers. And then he obviously bothered him through this week and he couldn't play against the Browns. I don't think it's necessary for him to play or not. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Tim Boyle had 77 passing yards and 2 horrible interceptions, especially the one to Malcolm Smith when they were in the Lions territory, or in the Browns territory that could have won them the game. DeAndre Swift had probably the biggest highlight of the game. He had over 130 yards rushing and a big 50-plus yard touchdown run. But at the end of the day here, this is like, I'm going to take the Bears because I've seen the Bears play. And the Bears just have more talent. The Bears have more fight. The Bears have assets that I actually think, can move forward. And if it's Tim Boyle, who has still not thrown an NFL touchdown in a genuine regular season game, the former Green Bay Packer quarterback, there's no way I could take him to win. There was a part of me going like, okay, the Lions again, the 0-9-1 Lions, who were the worst team in the league, covered another 10-point spread where the Browns just crap themselves in the bed. But I am going to take the Bears here -3.5 because I feel like the Bears, with that defense, if they can limit DeAndre Swift, they've won the game. Because the Lions, besides Hawkinson, really don't have that much working for them. And I've seen the Bears' defense, they really haven't given that much up to tight ends. And I feel like if they take out Hawkinson, nobody else really on the Lions scares you. But I feel like for the Lions, this is your best chance. You're playing a Bears team that's demoralized, coming off a short week. Matt Nagy could seem like how to blow this game. And if you get an interception or two on Dalton, or if you get Dalton to kind of move around, Nick Foles is going to be there. That might be a problem, obviously, because Nick Foles. But the Bears, this is the one game I feel like they have to win. If not, they're going to go 0-16-1. Sorry, Half Moon Picks, for your miserable year. Good luck for Detroit going into next year with a new coach. So that's like Chicago Bears here, -3.5. Chicago Bears straight up. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys over the Las Vegas Raiders. This one, to me, it's a bit tougher than you may think. Look, the Raiders have lost 3 straight. They have looked absolutely abysmal. I do want to give Jonathan Abraham and Denzel Perryman credit. They had 24 tackles combined, so 12 each. But they just could not stop anything. They could not stop Joe Mixon, who had 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He played fantastic. Jamar Chase and another touchdown and his great offensive rookie of the year campaign. I think he is the slight favorite over Mac Jones, but if Mac Jones keeps winning, I think Mac Jones will overtake Jamar Chase for that award. But I think and the Raiders, just Derek Carr in this 3-game losing streak, he was playing some of the best football. I know he's like top 5 in yards and he has like a top 5 or 6 completion percentage. But over the last 3 games, he's had 4 picks or 4 TDs, 4 picks. That's even. He had the fumble, which basically sealed the rest of the game. And I can't trust the Raiders. And look, the Cowboys here, the Cowboys right now are banged up in a lot of different ways. Look, Tyron Smith didn't play, even though they expect him to play on Thursday against Thanksgiving. Amari Cooper has COVID-19, best recovery to him. But CeeDee Lamb left a concussion. Zeke kind of got hobbled in the beginning of the game. And it just felt like the Cowboys could not get any big plays going. The Cowboys defense, I do want to give them credit. They got at least 2 turnovers on the Chiefs. They got the Micah Parsons strip sack and then the interception off Travis Kelce's hands. And amazingly, he leads the team in drops for the Chiefs this year at about 7 after that one. But when I look at this game, the thing I have noticed about the Raiders in this current streak that they're in, or the last 2 games at least, they give up a lot of yards running the football. And if Tyron Smith's back and that Raiders defensive line, they can get some pressure. They're better than they were last year. But I feel like if Tyron Smith and that whole line can band together, it's going to be a very heavy run-based game. And I like Zeke and Pollard more than Drake and Jacobs in this type of game. And I think Dak will make some better decisions and he'll have a little more confidence and talent around him. And if CD comes back, that basically will be the X factor because the Raiders, besides Darren Waller, who's kind of, he's coming back from an injury, he was kind of up and down. The Raiders and Cowboys kind of have equal talented receiver weapons, especially if Henry Ruggs leaving. Deshaun Jackson, he had the one big catch in the Chiefs game, but nothing beside that. And so at that point, when it comes to that, I'm going to take the Cowboys defense, which is playing better than the Raiders, and their run game, led by Zeke and Pollard, compared to the Raiders to win this game. And I think Dak outplays Carr a little bit. I think Carr at least has one turnover by fumble or interception. I think Dak might have one too, but I think the likelihood of the Cowboys forcing Carr to get a turnover compared to the Raiders trying to get Dak to turnover, I'll take the Cowboys defense over the Raiders in that spot. But with all the injuries, and if CD and Amari don't play, along with their pass rush, this is going to be a close game. Because I feel like the Raiders, with their secondary, it's not great. But they're going to feel much better not knowing that they have to worry about Amari Cooper or CD Lamb, their top receivers. If Michael Gallup's your number one option, then you need a different question to answer. So that's why I took the Raiders on the line. Because I feel like with all those injuries, it's going to be closer than people think. So that's like the Dallas Cowboys here to win straight up. The Las Vegas Raiders +7. The next game, the Buffalo Bills over the New Orleans Saints. This is one to where the Buffalo Bills, and I have to tell you, I've said this before, I was one of the bigger Buffalo Bills supporters before the year started. I think I told everybody here I had the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship game competing against the Kansas City Chiefs. I do no longer have them in that game because the Buffalo Bills, to me, are caffeinated people. Or it's caffeine. But the Buffalo Bills are caffeine. If the Buffalo Bills are hitting on all cylinders all the way around, though they cannot run the football to save their life, which was obvious, they have such big highs against the Chiefs or the Jets, or you see them in certain weeks. They have such big highs that they're the best team in the conference, you could argue. They're a Super Bowl contending team. But they just have these lulls against Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. They got spanked by the Colts on Sunday. That it's like, or to quote the Daddy Daycare line, every sugar high has its sugar low, and then all the kids are passed out. And that's what I feel like the Bills are. The Bills are like, the sugar caffeinated kids. If they're, they all have their caffeine and they're all happy and motivated, boy, are they great, and they're, off to the races, no one circles the wagons. But then when the Bills, they don't have their caffeine or the caffeine wears off, they slouch and crash and the wagon wheels fall off. And it goes everywhere. So, and Josh Allen, he had another 2 turnovers at 200 yards, only had 1 touchdown through 3 quarters. The Jonathan Taylor made the Buffalo Bills defense beneath him. He kinged them, he knelt on them, he killed them, he made them his servant, and that was one of the most impressive running performances I've seen in a very long time. Right now, he is the best running back in football, with Derrick Henry being obviously out of injury. But the Buffalo Bills, I'm just not convinced. However, I do have to say this. The Buffalo Bills have not lost back-to-back games all year, and usually when the Buffalo Bills lose a game in the 4 losses they have, they usually are able to bounce back in a pretty, dominating way. Week 1 against Pittsburgh. They shut out Miami the next week. They lost to Jacksonville. They blew up the Jets. And I know the Saints are a better team than both those teams, so I'm not going to say that they're going to do that, but the likelihood of the Bills winning this game is pretty good, especially with the Saints with Trevor Siemian. It's amazing that I think the craziest victory result has to be to the Saints. When Jameis went out in the end of the first half, the New Orleans Saints with Siemian were able to hold on and win that game. Because ever since then, Trevor Siemian has played like Trevor Siemian. And he, through the Falcons game, everybody was like, oh, he played okay in the Falcons game. He came back from 18 points down. Yeah, but through 3 quarters, he had 5 completions. And in the Titans game, he played okay. But then he had that horrible, ending sequence, and he missed a 2-point conversion. And last Sunday, he was absolutely dreadful. And then you could argue when the Eagles had it, in garbage time, the Eagles kind of played prevent. They didn't care. They let Simeon get on a couple nice drives, and then they realized, okay, crap, the garbage time is becoming more and more real time. And then they got Jalen Hurts on that last rushing touchdown to seal the game to win 40-23. But I just also think with the Saints, the key thing is, the Saints, Alvin Kamara is dealing with a knee sprain. He did not practice yesterday. I do not expect him to play on such a short week. But I am taking the Bills here because if you take out the running games for both squads, which are, basically without Kamara and without the Bills itself, are non-existent, I think Josh Allen has to outplay Trevor Siemian. He has to, right? I think Trevor Siemian, Trevor Siemian's going to play against one of the best secondaries in the league. And they don't have Michael Thomas. They don't have Adam Troutman, their number one tight end, has an MCL sprain, so he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So they're on their backup tight end. They have Deontay Harris. They have Marquez Callaway. They have Traquan Smith. Like, this Saints offense is not very good. And at the end of the day, I'm like, Josh Allen just has to outplay Trevor Siemian. Josh Allen may not play well. He may play phenomenally. But at the end of the day, Allen's going to outplay Siemian with both running game, and I'm going to trust the Bills' defense. After what I saw, right, with Jalen Hurts getting 3 rushing touchdowns and 70 yards, Josh Allen can do that, if not better, with his legs and his athleticism. I think this game, like, if it gets close, that's a huge problem for the Bills, because from what they've seen out of the Saints, what I've seen out of the Saints the last few weeks. But the Buffalo Bills should easily win this game based off Josh Allen's arm, his legs, and the lack of offense that you're going to get from the Saints just due to injuries to their running backs and just the lack of talent they have around. I feel bad for the Saints, and I'm going to say this. This might be the only person you hear in a hot take. Should we talk about Sean Payton getting fired? I'm just saying, like, you know, he had a 5-2 start. He had that big moment, his Super Bowl against the Bucs again. But ever since then, he's lost 3 straight games. They've been by, you know, the Eagles one was the first time maybe you could say, okay, they didn't have all their people and that might not have happened. But the last 2, they played the 8-3 Titans to a 2-point game, and they played the 4-6 Falcons to a 2-point game. And the Falcons have looked like crap ever since then, and the Titans just lost to the Texans. And the Saints just gave Taysom Hill a 4-year, $40 million extension. And that could be up to $95 million if he's named the starting quarterback. My problem is, why isn't he named the starting quarterback now? If you just gave this man the ultimate utility player, if he was a $10 million running back, he was incredibly overpaid. A $10 million wide receiver, he's about a number 1 rookie wide receiver, and he's probably making more than some better receivers on rookie deals. But he's not worth $10 million a receiver. A $10 million offensive lineman? Ooh, wow, that's a $10 million special teamer. He's the highest paid special teamer ever. Like, that was a stupid signing, because Taysom Hill with $10 million for whatever he does, he's not worth $10 million for all what he does. So, I just want to put that there. I know they're probably not going to fire Sean Payton, but I think it has to be thrown out there. If I were the Saints at the end of the year, I'd consider firing Sean Payton. But that's just me. But that's why I like the Buffalo Bills here, -4.5, and the Buffalo Bills straight up. The next game, the Cincinnati Bengals over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is one to where I really liked how the Bengals played last Sunday against the Raiders. That looked like the Bengals team that you had seen the last few weeks prior, before the Jets game. They seemed like they had kind of righted themselves. Joe Burrow had a solid, efficient game. I talked about Joe Mixon with 100-plus rushing yards. And I like what the Bengals did defensively. I think they did a great job getting pressure on Derek Carr. They limited a lot of Derek Carr's, main weapons. And Evan McPherson, I forgot to mention him. What a great moment for the Bengals. For him is a kicker for the Bengals history books. First Bengals kicker to hit 3 50-plus yard field goals. It's kind of amazing he hit those 3 50-plus yard field goals, but could not hit a 49-yard field goal in Week 5 to beat the Packers. So a little deep cut there, but good for Evan in the moment there. But I'm going to take the Bengals because I look at the Steelers and go, they were in an amazing dogfight against the Chargers, who were going to do Charger things and almost blew a game they shouldn't have. They were up 17 points going into the fourth quarter, but a blocked punt, and then a incredible Cam Hayward to Cam Sutton tip ball interception put the Steelers right back in the game. If it wasn't for Mike Williams breaking both Sutton and the other backup safety number 50. Oh yeah, if it wasn't for Mike Williams busting the coverage on the one sideline, I think the Steelers might have won that game. But at the end of the day, I think when I look at the Bengals, look, they beat the Steelers back in Week 3. That was one of those big, kind of early games to where people didn't really expect, or they were like, oh wow, the Bengals won, and that was more bad Steelers. No, that was actually a little bit more of how good the Bengals are. I think in this type of game, I can't remember the last time the Bengals actually swept the Steelers. It was probably before Ben was there. I don't even think Ben's ever been swept by the Bengals. No, it was probably 2012. It's probably maybe the first time that he, since he's been swept by the Bengals. And I just think the Bengals, they're going to have their running back, they have a little bit healthier receiving core. They have a healthier defense. TJ Watt and Joe Hayden are going to be big injuries to look at. I think Minka Fitzpatrick, who was out last week due to COVID-19, he should be back and cleared for this game. And I just think the Bengals right now, they're a little more consistent. They have more talented weapons. And I think losing TJ Watt not having that pass rush ability because Justin Herbert killed the Steelers with 90 rushing yards on 9 carries, 10 yards per rush. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to have to do that, but he's a little more mobile, and I think the Bengals, with that lack of pass rush coming from Pittsburgh, with the loss of Melvin Ingram, or with the trading of Melvin Ingram to the Chiefs, I think the Bengals are able to pull this one off by at least 4 points. It's going to be a good game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh won or kept it within the 3.5, because, again, it's a division rivalry. Both these teams don't like each other, and Big Ben Roethlisberger has had a phenomenal record against the Bengals in his time as a Steeler. But I'm going to take the Bengals, more healthier, trust the offensive weapons, trust Burrow playing. They're at home, so if they were able to beat Pittsburgh on the road in that environment, they should be able to beat them at home. And Pittsburgh just not having Ebron, the Bengals defense being a bit better, and not having T.J. Watt and Hayden maybe again, those 3 losses right there are going to be significant enough for me to take the Bengals to win this game. Sounds like the Cincinnati Bengals are minus 3.5, and Cincinnati Bengals straight up. The next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Indianapolis Colts. I am taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here over the Indianapolis Colts. And any Colts fans out there, I'm sorry. Look, you are probably the best team right now in the AFC that is not in the playoff picture. You have probably a very good chance to get there. But I am taking Tampa Bay here because I think the Bucs, the one thing the Bucs can do well, okay, Jonathan Taylor was like the 5th running back in history to have 200-plus scrimmage yards and 5 touchdowns in a single game. I think one of those guys in that was like Sean Alexander had a game back in like 2003 in his MVP year. Like, he was fantastic, the best running back in the game. Carson Wentz didn't really have to do a lot of damage, especially when the Colts get 3 turnovers. I think the biggest thing for me is I think the Bucs have one of the best, if not the best, rushing defense in the league. I'm not saying Jonathan Taylor is going to get, it's not Leonard Fournette, LSU, Alabama, 2016. No, it's not going to be that bad where he gets stifled. No, I think Taylor will at least get 50 to 70 yards. But instead of getting 140 and the 50 to 70, the Bucs will take that. And they will force Carson Wentz to throw the football. And Carson Wentz, even though he's had a phenomenal year, 19 TDs, 3 interceptions, probably the second best ratio in the league behind Kirk Cousins, I believe, yeah. And it is on the road where the Bucs, they are 5-0 at home. The only other undefeated team at home are the Packers. And the Bucs have lost their last 2 games on the road to Washington and New Orleans in close and tight fashions due to turnovers. I just think, again, I think the Bucs' run defense is going to be the key to limiting Taylor. And if you make Carson Wentz have to throw the football in a lot of key ways, you saw it against the Titans. Even if Jonathan Taylor had a good game against the Titans, he is more prone to make that big mistake and error that cost the team the game. And I feel like if the Bucs' run defense, even without Vita Vea, and I think another big injury I think Bucs fans have to worry about is Ali Marpet, the very good center from the Division III school. I forget what it was, but he was from a Division III school. Tampa should be able to win this game because I do not think Carson Wentz, even with this banged up secondary, okay, and I know the Bucs secondary is bad, but I'm going to take the Bucs here because I feel like their run defense is going to limit Taylor enough that he's not going to be nearly as impactful as he was before. They're going to get Antonio Brown probably back for next week. Rob Gronkowski, the second leading receiver on the team, had 6 receptions for another 70 yards. I think Brady's happy to have that big security blanket back for them. And I just think the Bucs are just the better overall team. I know the Colts defense is probably better holistically, especially on the back end compared to Tampa's. And I know the Colts have Pittman, they have Doyle, they have Hilton. They have, 3, okay weapons. You have Zach Pascal who can make some, okay catches against their secondary. But at the end of the day, I think Antonio Brown being there really stretches that secondary out. Mike Evans left him an injury, and I do want to congratulate Mike Evans for passing Mike Allstott for the all-time Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise touchdown record. So congratulations to him. Job well done. I know it may not be, it's not the Packers or the Steelers, not a great honor, but still, it's a big thing for the Bucs and Mike Evans. I just feel like, again, Antonio Brown being back would be the X factor because I feel that stretches out the secondary, and I think Ronald Jones and Fournette, or Lenny, as Tom Brady calls him, can run the ball enough against the Colts defense. They can keep him honest and let Brady do his work. And Tom has played in that Colts building several times. He's won a lot of games in there. And I feel like he's comfortable in there. I feel like they know that they don't want this road losing streak to continue. And they have a tremendous opportunity with the Packers, with that 8 win spot to be neck and neck with them for that number 2 seed at least. I know that may not mean anything, but the number 1 seed being the bye and the Cardinals. But being the number 2 seed, I think, is important just because it guarantees you at least 2 home games for the for the conference championship game. So that's why Tampa Bay here -2.5 and Tampa Bay straight up. But I would tell anybody out there, I would not fault anybody for taking the Colts +2.5 and thinking they could win, because I think the Colts are a bit healthier right now. They have a little more, well-rounded team, and if they can get through the Bucs' run defense with that Colts offensive line, they could win the game. Also, Quentin Nelson for the third time this year left the game and did not return, so that will be something you have to watch. It's unfortunate. I still think you get Quentin Nelson a lot of big money because this is his first year being injured, so it's not a habit, and I'd be willing to take that risk of his potential consistency for the most part besides this year. But that's going to be the other thing for Indy, which I think is going to be a bit of an interesting issue moving throughout the rest of the week. That's why Tampa Bay here -2.5, Tampa Bay straight up. The next game, the Carolina Panthers over the Miami Dolphins. Oh man, this game to me is very simple in a way of where when you have equal receiving cores, equal defenses and secondary and defensive lines, tight ends, I'll give Miami the edge. Gesicki, I like Gesicki. And Shaheen's probably better than Dan Arnold's on the Jags now. But he's better than the backup tight end on the Panthers. When you have these kind of two evenly matched teams, Cam Newton, though, he had another 3-touchdown game. He had the great rushing touchdown. It felt very much like George Foreman or the old boxer being able to throw that good jab and show that he still got it. He did a little Superman, which was a nice moment. They still lost the game off of Cam getting sacked on 4th and 3. And then stupidly, Matt Rule going for it on their own 32, down by 3 points. I would have punted the football and see if you could have got Taylor Heineke to stop. But in this game, I'm going to take the better quarterback, and to me, that's Cam Newton. Look, Tua played okay. He threw a horrible interception early on in the game, but he ended up completing 82% of his passes. He had, I believe, he had a nice touchdown pass to Water or somebody, and the Dolphins won their third straight game. So I do have to say this to Brian Flores: he has been able to cool his hot seat a bit. He has been able to cool his hot seat a bit just because of how he's been able to win so far. But in this game, look, Miami, they haven't been that, and look, I'll give this to Miami as well. Won their last 2 home games, beat the Ravens and Texans. So this Dolphins team has a little bit of confidence in them, and I think the Dolphins secondary matches up well with Anderson and Moore. But at the end of the day, I think Cam's ability to move his legs is going to be the difference to where Tua really can't do that. And I just feel like with the Panthers, they know that, Christian McCaffrey is better than anything the Dolphins have at running back combined. And I think Cam and them realize the moment they're in. If they lose to this Dolphins team, they're probably not going to make the playoffs for the rest of their schedule. They're probably not. And I just think for Carolina, Cam's going to outplay Tua. Taylor Heineke ended up outplaying Cam, which, I have to give Taylor Heineke's credit. He's played pretty well. He's at least earned the right that next year, even if Washington drafts a quarterback, he's earned the right to compete with that quarterback for the starting job. I will give Taylor Heineke that credit where it's due. But I'm going to take Cam here because I believe Cam is better than Tua, and he outplays them in this kind of very interesting, Alabama-Auburn revisited. I know two completely different classes and times. But the Panthers just have a little bit more defensive help, and I think McCaffrey's going to be the difference to where the Dolphins really don't have a counterpunch for it. And I think the Panthers secondary with Will Fuller of his injury, Devontae Parker being out, I believe, for his final game, or his final potential game off IR, they're going to shut down the Miami Dolphins offense enough that the Panthers won. So that's why Carolina here -1, Carolina straight up. The next game, the New England Patriots over the Tennessee Titans. I am taking the New England Patriots here -5.5 because the Tennessee Titans looked absolutely pathetic on Sunday against the lowly 1-win Houston Texans. How can you be 7-0 against playoff teams from the year before, but you're 0-2 against you're 0-2 against the Texans and the Jets, two bottom 10, two bottom 5 football teams. And it wasn't even close. Like, Tyrod Taylor had 2 rushing touchdowns. Tyrod Taylor got his first win since week 1 of last year. And it was just sad. And for Ryan Tannehill, for all the good stuff. And I'm a big Ryan Tannehill supporter because I think Ryan Tannehill plays well enough for his contract. He wasn't nearly playing enough this year statistically, but they were 8-2 entering the game. And he just puts a performance like that. He throws 4 brutal interceptions that cost the Titans a huge game and basically the respect of everybody in the AFC. There are a few people, were saying the Titans were the best team in the conference or the best team in the league. And now you cannot say that anymore. I think, like I said, they fall to number 4, to me for right now. And after they lose to the Patriots, they're going to fall further than that because they're going to be 8-4. And they're going to go, well, the Ravens are better, the Chiefs are better, maybe the Chargers are better, And look, I know the big, elephant in the room. And, of course, everybody knows this. I think this game is so easy to pick because, again, there's no Derrick Henry, no Julio Jones. They lost Ferkser, their tight end. Bud Dupree's on IR. They don't have one of their other corners, Caleb Farley, doing ACL tear. There's a lot of injuries on this Titans squad that, like, if they were all fully healthy, this team probably could have beat the Patriots legitimately. But I'm taking the Patriots here because, first of all, they're the hottest team in the league. They have the longest winning streak at 5 straight wins. Mac Jones joined Ben Roethlisberger and Dak Prescott as the only rookies to win their first 5 starts on the road. They've been able to run the ball incredibly well with Stevenson and Damian Harris, a great duo of running backs. And I just think, again, the Patriots right now, this is the worst team to face, especially when you have no weapons. If they don't have Ferkser, Julio, AJ Brown left the game with a chest injury, if they don't have their 3 main weapons that they had in the beginning of the year, there's no way the Titans win. There's no way Ryan Tannehill throws to Chester Rogers, Nick Akini Westbrook, Dre something, the one guy that got the 30-yard touchdown in the game that made it a 6-point game to begin with. Randy Bullock was missing kicks. They lost their, big prize pass rusher, They had big Jeff Simmons, but if they use their center and their guard and Ted Karras and whoever, if they use Karras and Andrews enough and they block Jeff Simmons, they're going to get no pass rush. And Mac Jones will just, dink and dunk, and they'll be able to run the ball effectively with their 2, running backs and just absolutely beat the living tar out of the Titans. And shout out to Keith Bailey. No offense, if I feel this strongly about it, but I just think of the Titans, like, again, and this is the Titan thing. This would be, like, yeah, nobody expects the Titans to win this game. They are down, man. They are, and they somehow are able to pull off, the upset, another upset, and you go, wow, the Titans are still the Titans. Who knew? But I'm going to take the Patriots because it's just way too obvious, it's way too clear, and it's way too easy. Like, the Patriots' dominant defense, J.C. Jackson, leading the league in turnovers and interceptions since 2018, leading the league in interceptions this year. He had a great pick on Matt Ryan. The Falcons were the first team since 2000 to have 3 quarterbacks get picked off in a single game. In Josh Allen, Felipe Franks, and Matt Ryan. And I just really like what the Patriots are doing with how consistent they've been, how dominant they've been, and how healthy they've been as a whole team. I think, for Jonnu, it's a big game. It's against his former team. I know Hunter's been getting the, acclaim for his touchdowns, but I am taking the Patriots here because they are fully healthy and the Titans' offense is non-existent, and I think the Titans' defense, with its lack of pass rush and a banged-up secondary, I don't think it's going to end up well. I don't think Mac Jones is going to light up the scoreboard with big, long completions, but he will just methodically, with the weapons he has and the knowledge of what he doesn't have to face, he will methodically beat up the Titans in a way that I don't think Tannehill will, with the lack of talent he has around him and with his poor play himself. I expect Tannehill to at least have 2 turnovers on Sunday. That'll be kind of a tease there. Let's see if I'm right or wrong about that one. So that's like the New England Patriots here, -5.5, and the New England Patriots straight up. The next game, the Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Giants. This is one to where the Giants are abysmal. The Giants are bad. The Giants have really nothing going for them. Daniel Jones threw another 2 horrible interceptions, especially the one to Steve McClendon. Former undrafted guy out of the Jets. Congratulations to him for getting the first pick and first catch of his career, probably as an NFL player. The Giants secondary got shredded. Saquon really couldn't run the ball that well. Galladay made a couple nice catches, but then by the end of the game, they were just throwing it around. They're undisciplined. The best highlight of that game was Andrew Thomas, the former tight end turned left tackle out of Georgia, number 4 overall pick from last year's draft. Or 2 years ago, 2 years ago's draft. Catching a touchdown. That was the only highlight the Giants had. And I just look at the Eagles and say, this Eagles team probably has the best chance out of all the teams that are left and outside of the playoff picture of making it. because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Carolina, Atlanta, and New Orleans now. Jalen Hurts is playing incredibly well. Again, he's not throwing the ball particularly well, but he's been able to use his legs tremendously to run. He had 70 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, like I said earlier. And I think the Eagles are in a very, good spot. The Eagles have won, I think, 5 of the last 6 games against the Giants. Daniel Jones' first win was last year at home against Carson Wentz in the game where Carson didn't throw a touchdown, but it was very just dink and dunk, not effective. I think Jalen Hurts is going to make some bigger plays against this Giants defense. This Giants defense, it has talent. It has Dexter Lawrence. It has Julian Love. It has Logan Ryan possibly being able to come back off the COVID list. He wasn't going to make an impact last night to win the game, but he will definitely make an impact in this game if he can play. And I think the Giants, again, it's the Giants, so I wouldn't be surprised at the division game. And the Giants always somehow, right when they get blown out, they'll play the next 2 or 3 games in a close way or have close loss or get a win the very next week, which is always weird to me. But I feel like the Eagles are playing at such a good clip. Losing Jordan Howard is big because I feel like with Jordan Howard, there is something that I am interested in to see, which is can they, Miles Sanders did okay, but can Miles Sanders, a Boston Scott, run on this Giants defense enough? I think they can. The way the Giants win this game is force Jalen to throw. Jalen threw for like 14 passes the other week, and there's just something about with Jalen that the way you beat him is very much like Georgia football and college football this year. The Eagles have found out, or Nick Sirianni finally realized to run the football, run it well, and move forward. If you can limit the run, force Jalen to throw. It's kind of like with Georgia. Georgia's a run and defensive-oriented team. Stetson Bennett really has not had to do a lot of football for the Bulldogs. Force Jalen to throw. You might have an opportunity to get a turnover or 2 or 3 and out. And limit Devontae Smith because everybody else really on the Eagles offense cannot make plays or does not want to make plays in this game. But the Eagles, I just think, again, they're more consistent. They're in a better role. They've won most of these games against Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones has 1 career win in his 4 starts against the Giants in the first place. Of course, it's also the series where Daniel Jones, of course, last year slipped and fell off on his head where everybody laughed because he couldn't keep his own feet getting into the end zone. So that's like Philadelphia -3 and Philadelphia straight up. The next 2 games, Atlanta-Jacksonville and the Texans over the Jets. Atlanta-Jacksonville real quickly. This game, there's not a lot of fun to talk about here. So the only reason why I took Atlanta, was because Matt Ryan was here. Matt Ryan is better than Trevor Lawrence. That's it. They could get Cordero Patterson back, but the Falcons over the last 2 weeks have scored 3 points. They got shut out at home for the first time since 1988. So, Atlanta over Jacksonville. I am taking the Atlanta Falcons here because they have Matt Ryan, who is better than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has been uninspiring, unproductive, and just unmotivating. And I saw he had it Baker Mayfield. He's had some success, but you're telling me Trevor Lawrence gets a Subway commercial with 2 wins, to where in his 2 wins he didn't even throw for 130 yards against the Bills and couldn't even put up a touchdown. And that guy has a Subway commercial. I know, he's got the long, blonde, flowing hair, but he's won 2 games, and I guess, they did this before, and they thought he was a big deal, but I'm like, Trevor Lawrence is nowhere near as big a deal as everybody thought. And, again, it's not all his fault, but he's not just a good quarterback. And, even to Matt Ryan, who's, again, put up a grand total of 1.5 points, and the Jags have put up more points in their last game combined than the Falcons have the last 2. So I know that. But at the end of the day, I just think Matt Ryan and Cordero Patterson are enough where the receiving cores match out equally. And I think, again, Atlanta has a little bit more defensive talent. And Matt Ryan can just make more plays. Could the Jags win this game? Sure, it would be peak Atlanta. And for Jacksonville to somehow get 3 wins, that's their most successful season in nearly a decade. But I'm going to take Atlanta here because they have Matt Ryan. That's why Atlanta here -1 and Atlanta straight up. Sorry for the very short analysis, but I don't really have. And then the Texans over the Jets. I am taking the Houston Texans here over the New York Jets based on the fact it's the same idea of it's the better quarterback. I think the Texans, they were able to put together a solid game with Tyrod Taylor. His feet, were able to get, 2 rushing touchdowns. And even if it's Zach Wilson, who Joe Flacco played okay, I would say that Joe Flacco played okay for himself against the Jets. It ended up being a 7-point game. But the Texans really don't have to worry about a running game because Michael Carter II, the running back out of North Carolina, he has a low ankle sprain. He's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. So he is going to be out for this week. And I think with the Jets, with Ty Johnson being their new back, I think that's going to be enough for the Texans to kind of hone in on. And I just think, again, Tyrod outplays Zach Wilson in this game if it's Zach. I think Tyrod makes a few more plays than Zach. And I think the Texans force 1 or 2 mistakes on Zach Wilson, who was leading the league with turnovers before he was out for his absence, and leading turnovers for rookies in his absence. I think the Texans get 1 or 2 turnovers, and the Texans are at home. Like in these 2 games, nobody really is going to care about the kind of the stakes for these games, because these are just 2 throwaway games. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. Unless both these teams tie, which you could argue both kind of deserve. But I'm going to take the Texans. Just better quarterback. They're at home. I think Zach Taylor, whoever they're playing, makes 1 or 2 mistakes more than the Texans, and the Texans win off another clean game. Even though very quickly for the Texans, I do want to say David Culley deserves to keep his job for next year, because if he's able to win today or on Sunday, and then he won last Sunday and he won in week 1. If he gets 4 wins, because remember, he has another game against Jacksonville coming up. If he has 4 wins, that's good enough for him to keep his job for at least another year. I don't think he's going to keep it after the second year, because I think the Texans are not going to be that very good. But at least he's earned the right to say, hey, I'm better than Robert Saleh. I've just beaten Robert Saleh. And I'm better than Dan Campbell, who doesn't even have a win yet. And we haven't had our quarterback since the beginning of the year. You've had Jared Goff, the former Super Bowl quarterback, just 3 years ago. And you still haven't been able to find a win. So, just a little positive press and push for David Culley. So that's why I have the Houston Texans here -3 and Houston Texans straight up. Then the next game, back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Los Angeles Chargers over the Denver Broncos. This is one to where I am taking the Chargers because I feel like the Chargers are a more balanced team. They're more consistent. Austin Eckler's been having a sensational year. I think he's leading the league in terms of total touchdowns. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are phenomenal receivers. Jared Cook kind of been faltering, but and I like what the Chargers have. Though I think one key thing that's going to be key is Asante Samuel Jr. Their second-round pick from Florida State got hurt, and he was dealing with an injury. I don't think he returned in the game, so that's going to be big. And they lost Linval Joseph to COVID-19 this week. He tested positive, so he is out for this week. I don't know if he's vaccinated or not, but he's probably going to be out anyway. They should get Jerry Tillery back, which would be nice. And I think the Chargers, again, and the Chargers beat the Broncos last year, in the last game off a field goal from the Money Badger, who's on the Colts now. And then the game before that, the Broncos won off that crazy 2-point conversion or the final untimed down to beat them in a 1-point game. I think that could happen again. It's the Chargers. They always somehow are like the Vikings in a way. They can't ever have a dominating performance and leave it alone. They always have to go down to the wire, and the Broncos are ticked off. Teddy Bridgewater's been getting a lot of heat for the last, week for his very passionate tackle on Darius Slay that basically ended the game for the Broncos. But I am going to take the Chargers here, better quarterback. The Broncos, are going to be motivated. Both their wide receivers, their 2 top wide receivers, Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton, both signed major extensions. I was more okay with Tim Patrick's. I did not like Courtland Sutton getting $15 million a year for having really one okay year, with the rest of them being around injuries. But I will take the Chargers here. Better running game, kind of more confidence with the defensive pressure. They're not going to have Bradley Chubb back. The Broncos secondary is a bit banged up. And I think Herbert, he played well against Denver last year in his first start there. There were some ups and downs. I think he might throw 1 turnover, but I think his arm and his legs are going to be the big difference compared to Bridgewater's in this type of game. Should be an interesting game. If it was 4 higher, I'd probably take Denver on the line. Because again, it's Chargers and Denver, division rivalry. Very much like Eagles-Giants. There's one team that's clearly better, but you just never know the other team and the elements and whatever could happen. But I'm going to take the Chargers. Better quarterback, more consistent. Don't have as much pass rush issues to worry about. And I think their defense gets a little more pressure, especially with Garrett Bowles being out as well. So yeah. So that's like the Los Angeles Chargers here, -2.5, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. The next game, the Green Bay Packers over the Los Angeles Rams. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers here because I believe in the Green Bay Packers more than I do the Rams. The Rams over the last 2 weeks over the last 2 games have not looked great. They've been beat up. They've been embarrassed. And the Packers, that defense has been doing pretty well, and I just trust them enough they can limit Darrell Henderson. And I honestly a big thing for the Rams because it's not like Jared Goff was a Cal kid. Look, Matt Stafford played in that division for years. So going to Green Bay, it's not going to be a huge problem for him to go back into Green Bay and go, oh my God, we're in the frozen tundra, we're in the freezing cold. No, he knows he feels comfortable on that field. He knows how to play on it. He's played enough times. But at the end of the day, like the Rams, like the Packers have been up and down, but like the Packers are still a pretty good football team. Like if you take out their Week 1 loss, their 2 losses were 6 points with their backup quarterback, and they lost off an overtime, field goal, or they lost off a buzzer-beating field goal that you could have argued if a call goes their way of Adrian Amos, the Packers beat the Vikings and go to 9-2, and they're the best team in the conference over the Cardinals. And also at the end of the day, I just think the Packers, the Rams, like they have gone to Green Bay last year in the playoff game with Goff. They didn't look that great. I think Rodgers, I know he's dealing with that turf toe injury, and he said it was worse than turf toe, but you really can't show it after he throws for about 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. I know it was against the Vikings defense, which isn't a lot, but I'm going to take the Packers here. They're undefeated at home. The Rams, they could put it together. I think Stafford, this is a big opportunity. Odell's Odell's had about 2 weeks now to work with him. And I think the Rams are healthier than the Packers at this moment. And because they might not have Aaron Jones, that could be a factor. But I think A.J. Dillon puts a little bit in. I think the key thing is whoever Elton Jenkins' replacement is, because he tore his ACL, he's out for the year. That's going to be the key thing. If that offensive line can't hold up, this is why which Bakhtiari was playing. If that offensive line can't hold up, the Rams have a chance to win. And this is really a coin flip game, but it's 1 point. I think at the end of the day, Rodgers outplays Stafford like he usually does, like he usually did through all his time with the Lions, and Rodgers plays a little bit better, even with his banged up turf toe. If he leaves the game, then we're screwed, and the Rams win. But yeah, the Packers win this game based off Rodgers' arm, and the Packers defense just making 1 or 2 more stops compared to the Rams right now. So that's why the Green Bay Packers are -1, and the Green Bay Packers straight up. The next game, the Minnesota Vikings over the San Francisco 49ers. I am taking the Minnesota Vikings and 49ers here. This is, a toss-up game. So just like with Carolina and Miami, you go with the better team. You go with the better quarterback right now. And that is, amazingly, number 8 for the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has the best TD interception ratio in the league. 3rd best quarterback rating. And I'm not exaggerating here. I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins supporter, but from what you've seen and from what I've seen, he has played so well. If a couple games go their way, he doesn't choke against the Ravens, a kick goes against the Cardinals, they get a pass interference call, and they somehow beat the Browns, Kirk Cousins would be the MVP of the league right now. That is how well he is playing the position. Like, it's going to be weird because, again, Kirk Cousins, he might not get all the wins, and you can't really trust him in the postseason. But it's going to be really hard for next year with his representatives can say, look at the numbers and consistency he's put up, and ask them, do you want to get rid of me? Because how could you? This guy's playing the best football of his career. He's been in 8 games against 8 games against Rodgers. He's 4-3-1 against him. That's like 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins, one of the best quarterbacks in football every Sunday this year has been 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins. When you put him on primetime television, yeah, Kirk shrinks. But Kirk Cousins just on a regular one, again, so technically it's not the 1 o'clock window, but it's 1 o'clock or 1:25 Pacific Standard Time. But I really like how the Vikings are playing. And I think they'll be able to close out another game. Look, the Niners defense was fantastic, but they beat up the Jags. And Elijah Mitchell, was okay. Deebo Samuel's become their best running back wide receiver. He's become essentially, the RB wide receiver, debate about how much you want to pay him. And Jimmy Garoppolo threw for another 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played okay. But I'm just going to trust Kirk Cousins to outplay Jimmy Garoppolo because I think Kirk Cousins has a little bit of an easier matchup defensively, especially secondary-wise, compared to the Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners. And to be fair, remember, the Niners only won one home game over the past year. So losing, at home to the Niners is not something new that they're, shocked to or, against. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the Vikings. They have a little bit of a better receiving core and better talent, and I think that is the difference in this game to how the Vikings get their third straight win and put themselves above 500 at 6-5. Mike Zimmer, you might be able to save your job. I'm sorry I made some comments earlier, but I genuinely thought your job was on the line. I think you might be able to pull yourself out and get another year just with how well this Vikings team's playing. I'm shocked the Vikings are 3 point. I thought this would be a 1 point type of game. I think these two teams are about that even, and I think the Niners should be. If I was betting this game, I'd put it at -1.5 to 1 for the Niners, not 2.5 for the Niners. So that's why I have the Vikings. Actually, I'll change. It's actually +3 now. So that's why I like the Minnesota Vikings here +3 and the Minnesota Vikings straight up. And then the final two games, the Ravens over the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens here to win this football game because the Cleveland Browns right now are just Baker is literally a one-armed hanging man with nothing really supporting him. They looked awful against the Lions. He threw 2 interceptions. They only could put up 13 points, the lowest amount the Lions have given up all year. You gave Dan Campbell another against the spread victory. You gave Dan Campbell some confidence of saying they could win a game. And the Ravens, look, they haven't played well offensively the last 2 weeks, but Lamar's feeling pretty good. He should be able to go hopefully this Sunday, and the Ravens should be able to win this game pretty easily. I feel like with the Browns, their secondary is not that good, and I think our defense, for how banged up their offensive lineman and how banged up Baker is, he's not going to be able to make that many big throws. Jarvis Landry left the game with a knee injury, so he may not go. So if we're playing Donovan Peoples-Jones, Seth something, or number 10 for the Anthony Schwartz. Anthony Schwartz. We're playing Austin Hooper and Brian Njoku. Our tight ends are better than theirs, so that cancels out. And I just think, again, the Ravens have been a much better consistent team at home than they've been on the road. We were able to split 2 road games by Tucker's leg again, and I think the Ravens win. Also, the Ravens Lamar is a great primetime quarterback. He usually wins a lot of primetime games. He wants some redemption for what happened on Thursday 2 weeks ago. I think he gets it against the Browns this Sunday night. So that's why I like the Baltimore Ravens here -4 and the Baltimore Ravens straight up. And then finally, the Washington football team over the Seattle Seahawks. This hurts my heart. Everybody knows me. I am a huge Russell Wilson fan. I think but the Seahawks are dead out of the water. They are shot birds. They're dead hawks. And it's amazing. I just think, again, Washington's been playing better. Washington will be able to run the football. Gibson, McKissick will give them a nice push. They're getting Logan Thomas back, which will give a nice help. Their pass rush, I think, will get through the Seattle offensive line. Chandler Jones, by the way, fun fact, he is top 10 in Seattle Seahawks sacks at Lumen Field. In that stadium, he's the only Seahawk that has more sacks. He's a top 10 sacker on the Seahawks on that field compared to everybody else that played for the Seahawks. He's the only guy that's been a road guy there. But Taylor Heineke's played really well. He's thrown 5 touchdowns, I think 1 interception the last 2 games. Terry McLaurin's had a fantastic last couple games. They've been able to control the clock really well, and it's a west to east coast road trip. Seattle, I know, went to Washington last year and beat them in that weird 17-9 game. I think it could be a very similar score. But at the end of the day, what defense am I going to, what quarterback am I going to trust more to make more plays? Taylor Heineke or Russ? I'll take Taylor Heineke against Seahawks defense compared to Russ against the Washington defense. Seattle went 20 straight drives without scoring a touchdown until that DJ Dallas touchdown. And also, I just know Washington's defense is going to be much more disciplined than Seattle's because Seattle, I just feel like they'll get drives going, but every time they'll get to a stop, they'll get a penalty or something bad will happen. That's what the Seahawks have pretty much shown all year. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle won, but Washington to me is just on a better roll, more consistent at this point, and that's why I had to go with them. So that's why I like Washington here -1 and Washington straight up. And that is it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fellow prognosticators, and fellow fantasy players. And until next week for my Week 13 predictions, happy Thanksgiving once again to everybody out there. This is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until next time, so long.